currently being done, and it's also going to be deployed along the whole value chain, the transport. They are the transporters.
Okay.
You've seen they've done well with the pricing issue on transporting gas to the operator. Nigeria's gas, you can start from the gas master plan. You need to transport it. Transporting has got issues. Who's signing an agreement with the shipper? Who is shipping it to? What else am I doing? With those three-tier pricing system, the power, the commercial, and the GBIs. Yes, all that's going on. You will see a lot as well. Not just a network is beginning to evolve in the eastern side of the country. So you're going to see lots of activities,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you very much, sir. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. So next, still on the issue of adaptation, we apologize. So the representative of the PTDF boss, we've heard about technology adaptation, that they need to collaborate with institutions and so on to encourage R&D and to enable Nigeria in the larger scale media playing in this regard.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. When he said this is the PTDF boss, I said amen in my heart. Amen, somebody for me?
Amen.
Thank you very much. The PTDF, for those that do not know, is he making? No, actually, like Mr. Agari said when he spoke, I looked at the theme in answering your question that is put up there, and I was asking myself, driving, give me the theme. Driving, I asked myself, where's the most critical asset that you need to do all of this? What's the most critical aspect? The human aspect. Because without the human, you can't have any one of this. You can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. I don't see anything about the human aspect there. So how do we even expect to create it, drive it, sustain it? What is the PTDF doing to help in seeing to this? Can I ask again, if there's anybody here that has benefited from the PTDF interventions? Anybody in the room? Does that answer your question?
Well, thank you very much. Put a round of applause for PTDF.
We build capacities.
Okay.
We build competency.
And clearly you guys have done so well in building capacity in the industry.
Yes.
But my question was specific as to where do you see PTDF playing a role in helping to drive this, adaptation of, gas technology?
That's where I thought my opening remark that way, neither regulator nor operator should come in. While we provide the service, we cannot enforce it. So to act and see to provision of all the services that are required in the sector.
Thank you very much.
And I thank you very much.
That's a very political answer. Thank you, sir. Okay, so that brings me, so of course you've said you're not a policy maker, but thank God we have Mr. Unsa here. And so please, what do you have to say in 2017? I think it was drafted in 2017. And since then, of course, we have the PIA, but PIA is more of a regulation than in terms of policy, frameworks. And so I want to know, where do you see technology and also drive one of the issues I've talked about here, which is energy access, right? Because one of the biggest issues, as I said, is the fact that we have been so focused on export-driven projects in developing our gas assets, forgetting that infrastructure gap. There's a huge issue in the sense that people do not have access to the conversion kits to be able to convert their vehicles and so on. So there's need for an energy policy to be able to address all of these challenges. So if you can please just start from the top to talk about the need for a new energy policy. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You just mentioned, let's start even from, let's take a look at the PIA. Okay. You're talking about it's not a policy, but it's a policy. So it's got to, for the policy to make sense, there's got to be a regulatory framework to drive that policy down.
Yes.
Good. So in today's energy landscape, given CNG,
yes,
that's also one of the interventions that has come in. That's actually a tip of the iceberg. There are several initiatives across the value chain. You talked about the MDGIF to the market.
Yes.
And where you don't have that, the virtual pipeline have come into play, for instance. You've seen that, which is mini LNGs are coming. You're talking about LNGs are going to be domestic supply, what do you call it? Domestic
Domestic-
gas
Dom gas.
delivery obligation.
Yes, DSO.
Prior to now, you had a challenge where we had, where the Nigerian, what did we call it? The 2008 complained about infrastructure issue. That was tweaked a little bit in the PI, meaning listening and getting the policy in and getting it into the law books. So, yes, you can see the three-tier pricing system: gas to power, gas to country, not just for power. Mr. Okon's presentation basically started spelling that out.
Yes.
You can't, if you don't have power in it, you
Yeah.
really can't talk about development.
Yes.
If you don't have industrialization and heating, cement plants, urea, fertilizer companies, methanol, and so on, you can see what the Honorable Minister has done recently. Pulled the producers together, and what is happening with the brass petrochemicals and fertilizer plants.
Yeah.
That's enabler for this situation.
Yeah.
You've seen the presidential directive with respect to the upstream side of things,
Yes.
quickly doing business. So we're not talking about having to take FIDs as what you saw in Train 7. No, we've got to step in and get those things done. Midstream wise, you also, provided those projects are bankable.
Thank you very
Let's
much.
stop there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. A round of applause for him, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so coming to my left, Joseph Ogonshola from NUPRC from the NFDPRI talks about the need to decarbonize, and so which means adaptation of technology and innovating in terms of decarbonizing the gas and oil and gas value chain. And so, where do you see are the key policy areas that the NUPRC?
Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you very much, distinguished audience. So it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. Just before answering your question, if I want to double down on, we are technology driven and focused. From the act to the regulations, to guidelines, to best practices, operating practices, we ensure that we design structures and regulatory framework that enables operators to domesticate it in such a manner to support oil and gas development, and specifically for gas growth. That streamlined approach towards technology adaptation is very critical in ensuring that first, we do not become a dumping ground for. So those are what we do. They are regulatory frameworks to support gas development technology-wise. And I'm very aware that our sister regulator, the NMDPRA, are doing likewise, so that in a value chain we can move the molecules from the subsurface to the surface and to the market and to the consumer to drive energy security and energy access that you have spoken about. And very importantly, to do this on a sustainable basis, we have to think differently. And I think a lot of speakers have spoken about the evolving challenges in the landscape. We must do things differently, okay? And that calls for us to recognize that indeed transition is here. Okay. If we bury our heads in the sand, the world will indeed leave us behind.
Of course.
Whether they are right or wrong is not the question, but it's just about, and in some cases, sophisticated labor is owned by the West. So if Africa does not do anything about it, our resources will be left for us. Okay, and that's why we must rethink the technology and innovation perspective, and that's why the theme of this conference is very, very important. We must come together as Africa. We must deepen value and collaborate value addition. So to this end, as a commission, we are driving through an energy transition imperative, and it's across 7 key pillars. Okay, driven by the PIA and the imperatives for effectiveness and efficiency. We've come up with the regulatory framework in driving the industry to so this way we are able to have a voice on the table and advance the cause for Nigeria and for Africa to continue to develop using its resources. Doing so, however, paying due considerations to environmental and climate considerations. So one key element of that regulatory framework is technology and innovation. Of the issue. Okay, the issue is carbon dioxide. Okay, so what technology and applications can you apply so that you can deploy CCUS technology, for example.
Yeah.
Would you do end of the pipe treatment? Are there measures and initiatives to help improve the environmental through the collaboration with our sister agency, NMDPRA, to also drive the midstream and downstream industry? Because it is key that decarbonization will help us to sustain oil and gas, especially gas, in the long term. And
thank you very much. A round of applause for him. So we have one more person on the panel here physically present, but I have two gentlemen online. So let me just mix it a bit. I'd like to call on Mr. Abdul Malik, apology that's representing you online.
Yeah, it's not AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So I believe you have been paying attention to all the presentations by the various speakers, especially the NMDPRA, and also our speakers, also access to finance, because of course I know your mandate is about developing local content. And so in driving local content, of course, I know the issue of technology transfer. And so where do you see NCD, whether probably in terms of ensuring participation of Nigerians, or funding R&D projects, or funding new gas technology acquisitions and so on? So let me hear your perspective on this from the NCDMB point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, G. It's very well in line with what we do here in NCDMB in terms of developing local capacity, both in terms of first to gas. First of all is to see gas as a development commodity, which needs to be explored.
Problems? Okay.
And once you identify, you identify the needs.
Sorry, 1 minute. I think we lost you a bit. Can you just repeat your last line?
So you need to identify the need for technology in the value chain. Okay. So once you identify the need, then it involves hardware, involves software. It also involves sustainable materials. So to that extent, as a country, you need to prioritize the areas that you want to play based on your resource availability. And then you now need to provide a strategy on how you can convert that aspiration into in Nigeria. And we've seen that we have a significant resource endowment, about 200 trillion standard cubic feet of gas, which represents about more than 30% of the Africa gas resource. But in terms of percussion conversation, and that requires significant investments in research and development. Part of the reasons why we've not advanced in terms of offtake is the low level of technology available in country for us to be able to handle. So we have adopted a research and development roadmap that looks at research as a global business. And therefore, there's a need for you to, first of all, look at the capability requirements to develop your research in country. And one of such capability requirements is the infrastructure, the manpower, and so on. Now, when you your specific question around adaptation, we've also adaptation helps rather than reinventing the wheel. So adaptation is basically where you have an existing technology, and then you look at your environment and see how you can replace some of the input source availability in country. So that is part of what we've also been able to entrench in some of the centers of excellence operating models that we are supporting. We've also seen that funding is a big deal when it comes to research. For you to be able to take research from ideation stage to the market, there are about 9 different technology readiness levels. And each of these sequencing requires consistent, it's a long-term investment. So we're able to get approval for a $50 million R&D fund. And then we compartmentalized it into 4 different utilization points, the centers of excellence, and 60% of that fund is on commercialization to establish the Technology Innovation and Incubation Center, which provides the enabling environment for us to challenge youths through our hackathon programs to be able to come up with problem statements and come with solutions to the problems, and then we fund them, and then also collaborate with other sister agencies of government to be able to take them through the different technology, gas leak detector, the gas 360 software solution, which is an app that aggregates the demand for gas across different parts of the country, and so many other research solutions that we've been able to put together as a result of this. The other area of interest that's the enabling environment, that means ease of doing business is very important, because even when you develop prototypes, you have to scale. So that ability to be able to scale to economic size is also very important. The ability to benefit from tax incentives for research allows the private sector to go into investment in research, so that the credits that they get from tax incentives can be an incentive for institutions doing different parts of research value chain, and being able to come together and own the technology and benefit from the royalty. So these are some of the insights that I would like to share in terms of our model for technology adaptation and also our funding strategy for research. I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Said quite a lot of things he said, but you know, I noticed a lot of people pop their eyes when he said $50 million. So they actually have $50 million for R&D. NCDMB has a huge role to play. So coming back to our questions, I would want to call on the gentleman to right here, Professor Mukhtar Abdulkader. He is the TA on strategy. A question with relation to what you have heard so far, especially from the representative of authority chief executive. And so where do you see the opportunities, where do you see the challenges that you think will shape the future of gas policy and sustainability in Nigeria, or let's say Africa and as a whole? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for just a correction. My title is actually Special Advisor on Strategy and Innovation to the Honorable Minister of Interior, and not Technical Assistant. Thank you very much. Now, what I will just do is, having listened to a reasonable number of speakers, South Africa, Egypt, and elsewhere, research and development is an expensive venture. And I will tell you this for free. The R&D spend of 5 countries, namely United States of America, Germany, China, South Korea, and Japan. For Africa, it is less than 1%. That is a message for us to ponder. Now back to the question. We are talking about opportunities and challenges. The number one opportunity is in terms of our gas reserve. So I would like to go Africa. Nigeria, for example, has a gas reserve of 206 trillion cubic feet. Then Egypt with 77. But the $65,000 question is, what does this reserve translate to? And I'll give us an excellent example. They count the natural resources, but unfortunately, they cannot add value to that oil. So the same thing with the gas. Yes, we have the gas reserve, but the key issue is, how do we translate? So our opportunity here is our gas resource. If we're able to harness it, for example, utilizing something like the AKK gas pipeline project, we know that countries along the routes of the pipeline will become industrialized. And then it will create a pathway for economic sustenance. Then, number 2, opportunity we have is transition to cleaner energy. About not clean energy, but just energy. Just clean energy. So Nigeria can actually utilize, the African region can utilize her gas resource as a transition fuel. It's not a charity organization. They are here to make profit. And they always tell you that you can model risk but you cannot model uncertainty. So we need that. The regulatory aspect, again, like I said, is an opportunity. Then regional integration. Yes, a good example is which transcends from Nigeria, Africa, and then Europe. So basically, by having something like that, you'll be able to integrate the African countries, in particular, those where the pipelines actually pass through. And then the last one, in terms of opportunity, we have this technology adaptation. Get the technology and then adapt it. I will digress a little, because interestingly, my first degree is from chemical engineering, master's is petroleum engineering, and PhD is the midstream sector. So invariably, I'm a journalist. So I'm wearing 3 caps, so I can comment a little about this. Now, you see, we talk about CCUS, carbon capture utilize, come out with something new, which we can actually adapt. And what is that? CCC. And what is this CCC? Carbon capture and conversion. So instead of storing the CO2, why not just convert it directly into the product of interest? So that is, or the CCC is in terms of the catalyst that you use. The catalysts are known to be very expensive. You have the nickel, the cobalt, the rare air metal. No, we can come back. Excellent absorbers. So those absorbers can actually replace what you have out there that are hitherto very, very expensive. So in terms of technology adaptation, yes, we have a way out of it. But what are the challenges? We've talked about natural gas. And the key aspect of natural gas is methane. So the concern the environmentalists have is methane leakage. Once you have methane leakage, house emissions. So again, like I said, environmental concerns, once you can handle that. Infrastructure and investment. I will tell you the investment is not, which is just 617 kilometers, will cost Nigeria and the Chinese government $2.8 billion US. The Nigeria, Morocco gas pipeline, where will the African countries get this money from? Where will they get this money from? So again, that is an issue. And we need this infrastructure. Otherwise, the natural gas will remain a clear, transparent regulatory frameworks. Then social and community impact. I'll talk about this very clearly. If today the government decides any of that are supposed to be in that very place, if you don't compensate them in the right way, you are creating what we'll call another monster. They will come back and haunt you. Now, you'll be told that the price of gas is this. So these are the challenges. So if we're able to bring all this together, we'll get to the promised land. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much. A round of applause for him. You know, I was listening to him intently. I got a note that twitching, and I just couldn't help but listen and more time. Please, one more round of applause for him. We definitely have, I will have to see you after this. Thank you very much. Okay, so I have 2 more questions. One for the gentleman. A last question for the representative of the Honorable Minister for Gas. I think we should hear from him to wrap up this. Please just raise your hands and speak so we are sure you're also not an AI. Thank you very much. Okay, we can't hear you, but at least we can see your picture is moving. So if you can.
Yes, I am joined and
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So we're out of time, so I'll just have you just say 1 or 2 things to summarize what you have heard today in terms of what you think are the key takeaways that you think should be focus areas for driving innovation in gas technology in Africa. Thank you very much. Just briefly, please.
Okay. Thank you very much for the Association of Energy Reporters and editors will be giving this kind of partnership, to particularly have the voice
Mind you, the association has been supporting the Nigerian, oil and gas industry since the discovery of oil. Remember that, fine, we've had a lot of suggestions made, particularly as it relates to collaboration, in ensuring the adaptation of gas technology. But